love riding my bike. I love running. I don't care what they think about it. I love it.
At that point, when I knew I was going to win, chills just went up and down my entire body.
I don't believe there are any good or bad foods. Food is food.
I still feel so passionate about getting that record that I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
As an athlete, I was like, what's my story, or what's your story? What can you learn from it? And what can you teach people?
Welcome to the IronWomen podcast. To our listeners, you are listening to our second to last episode of the IronWomen podcast. If that news catches you by surprise, please go back, listen to last week. We are wrapping up our time as co-hosts of the IronWomen podcast. I'm here with Haley Chura, who has long been faithful for me, many years of Monday nights here recording. And Haley, I almost feel like we could just seamlessly rebrand ourselves, go into 2025 and talk only exclusively about Taylor Swift, because that's pretty much what I want to do with you here today.
We are going to just talk about Taylor Swift. And actually, like, I was trying to practice this for this, but wait, like, if I can do the hand signal. Okay, I have a broken hand. There's no splint on it right now. I'm holding up three fingers on my broken hand, and then I'm putting one down Taylor Swift style because we have 2 to go. I mean, or am I supposed to go to 2? I go to 1. I think. Yeah. And that's wait, that's my broken finger still sticking up. But that is a Taylor Swift Eras Tour reference, as she counted down her last 3 shows this last weekend in Vancouver, and we are counting down our last shows here on IronWomen, which is sad, but we're not letting it get us down, or at least I'm just running away to Vancouver.
It does feel fitting that we're wrapping this up almost like simultaneously with the Eras Tour wrapping up. I feel like it's helping me find my way to, close this chapter. I really think that it, like in all things that she's taught me throughout all of the eras, like this is where we are now.
Did you watch the live stream of the final show last night in Vancouver?
I have not yet. I'm a big fan of waking up like 30 minutes before I actually need to get out of bed and scrolling through threads and Instagram and finding all of the reels, basically, and kind of wrap-ups that I can to find out all the information and spend 30 minutes just rotting my brain. But it's not really rotting my brain when I'm like doing it intently and purposefully for this mission of finding out exactly what happened at the Eras Tour, how it all went down, seeing the little music clips, watching them again and again until I feel like I was there, and then being like, dang, Haley really was there. So how
I was there. Okay, first of all, I did watch last night. I did watch the final live stream, and her final mashup, surprise song mashup of Long Live, New Year's Day, and the manuscript is worth finding and listening to as we are, celebrating the last 7 years of IronWomen and also wrapping up this show. I think it is very fitting. And as we have reflect on, our position as storytellers, as well as our guests' position as storytellers. And I mean, you can imagine how that mashup ended with the manuscript and the line, the story wasn't mine anymore. I think I butchered that a little bit, but the gist is that, the stories still exist, and we are so thankful we got to share them, and they aren't ours to share anymore, but that's okay. But I was there on Friday night. As I alluded last week, I had a bit of a YOLO moment, and one of my athletes, Katie Trustin Torney, a pro who never quite got on the show, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
We had some things lined up, didn't quite happen, but she managed to get a couple behind the stage tickets for Friday night, the third to last night of the Eras Tour. And Katie and I had both already seen Taylor, and just couldn't pass up this moment in history of going to Vancouver. And so I went out there with Katie, met up with Katie in Vancouver. Another one of my athletes, Sam Rothberg, she flew out from New York without a ticket, which is so adventurous. And it all worked out great. We did a scavenger hunt run, and we managed to catch all 13 signs, Taylor Swift themed signs that were around Vancouver. I did post a little video montage in my Instagram reels, and It was so fun. Alyssa, it was such a great way to see the city because these signs were all over, and it was also a really nice way to like enjoy some Canadian hospitality and Swiftie hospitality because at each one we had to ask someone to like hold the camera while the hold
I
the
was
phone.
wondering, yeah, I was wondering if you did that or if you were like setting it down and propping it and then just like hoping no one swiped it on the ground or something.
There was only one time we did that, like our second one, because it was a fairly early and there wasn't necessarily someone around. But I think I got better as the day went, where I was just like, I'm just gonna ask someone. And every time someone was so nice and offered to like hold it, thought it was a cute idea. And then I thought the video montage ended up kind of cute. And it was a rainy, kind of moody morning. Not rainy, it was just like wet. And that was something I did learn. Like 47 degrees Fahrenheit in Vancouver is not the same as 47 degrees Fahrenheit in Bozeman because Bozeman's very dry and sunnier and it was much colder than I expected in Vancouver. But we made it and it was like a little bit of a run walk, but I think we ended up covering a little more than 7 miles of the city and just kind of got our bearings and got to just really enjoy the city and the hospitality. And then we I think we got some food and then we went back to the hotel and in true like Haley coaching fashion, I was like, grab your swimsuits. We have to go to this pool because I just love visiting cool pools. And I had seen that there was one in downtown Vancouver and I was like, I cannot resist. And to get to this pool, we actually took like a little ferry, like a ferry taxi across the harbor. And that was just the coolest because I also love public transportation and ferry is not like one I normally get.
Yeah. Okay.
It was so cool. And then we walked to the pool and got a great swim in. It felt so good. I mean, that I think helped me a lot because that was my first outdoor run, that 7 miles. And again, it was slow and run walk and joyful, but still was a little bit for my body. So it was nice to be able to get in and do a little swim and shake out a little bit and pass some older Canadian men that got in my way because the competitive spirit has not died, especially when you put me in a public pool swimming situation. That was something I realized as a coach. It's so fun for me to watch my athletes in person and realize that I was like, passing, this is a skill I don't really teach well. And I was like, I got to figure this one out, how I teach people how to pass, like virtually, or else we just have a clinic and I'm like, get around that man. Do it now or
it
else.
would be really hard, I feel like, to teach that virtually.
And they're just so trying to be nice and trying to be like nice, like citizens of this, visitors in this city. And all my hospitality goes out the window when you put me in the express lane. But it was a very nice pool. Definitely worth checking out if you're in Vancouver. And then we got some like Taylor Swift themed drinks. And so that was a very nice day. And then the second day, we we went to Stanley Park, which is like another just really great running route. And Katie and Sam were able to do some intervals while I just walked and ate a cookie because I'm not like quite running 2 days in a row yet. So I took a couple pictures and, got the social media and just really enjoyed nature and watched them run, which again, such a treat as a coach, getting to actually see your athletes exercise in person. And then we went straight to the pool again because again, I love a pool. I can't get enough. It was 50 meters. This was also the first time both Sam and Katie have swam 50 meters. And I was like,
oh, wow.
What a treat. I can't believe I get to be there for your first 50 meter
then
experience.
it really is a great environment to practice passing in, I feel like.
Yes, I know. And Sam got a ticket that day. So she got a ticket for like a fairly reasonable price. And then
at first I thought you meant like a ticket for passing someone in the pool. And then I thought you meant like a parking ticket.
Oh, no. Ticket to the show.
Ticket.
I couldn't remember I said this. Again, she had this adventurous spirit that she went out without a show ticket. And then she did get one that morning because the prices did drop a little bit and she was able to get a slightly reasonable price ticket. And it was for a different section still behind the stage. But, and then, we went to the show. We had a great meal like early. This was so nice. It was so nice having like being with like other, Swiftie athletes and people who like follow my same pace of life. Everyone I've gone to the concerts with, Megan, my sister, and then Sam and Katie, I've been so lucky. And maybe it's everyone in the Taylor Swift community, but just there's so much joy and happiness and like it's just so bizarre and I don't know, it was just nonstop good times, but we got this great meal, went back and changed. And Alyssa, I don't know if you saw in the video, but they like bejeweled my splint for me because I had to wear my splint to the concert. That was like a deal I made with my therapist. And they like brought like little stick-ons and bejeweled it for me, which was so kind. It was so great. But you know, we got into the show and we got quite lucky because I was sitting next to a woman and her son, and her son was just a really big Taylor Swift fan. And so she had other friends there and was able to move her son to sit with her other friends. So then Sam was able to come sit in our section and sit with us. So we just had a grand old time. It all worked out. From behind the stage, the show was incredible. I mean, it was still such a fun like atmosphere that you didn't even notice you were behind the stage. Like you could still see a little bit like through the kind of through the stage. And then we did get to see the cleaning cart come out, and we got to see there were giant screens too that she actually put behind the stage, that Taylor put behind the stage for these tickets that she's like not actually making a lot of money on. You know, she put the screens back there so we were able to see all the dancers when they would like go on stage, waved at us. A lot of her backup singers would wave at us, her band would wave at us, and we felt like we were definitely part of the show. During two of the songs, 22 and Antihero, she actually comes to like that corner and she waves at us. And then we got to see her leave, which was so cool. Katie got a really good video of it on her TikTok. So if you haven't looked at that, Katie Treston Torney on TikTok, it is worth looking at that video. But just incredible time, magical. I'm so glad I got another experience. And I know people could say, oh, you've gone several times and why would you go more than once? And it felt like different every single time. Every single time was different. And also it spanned almost 2 years of my life too. And there's a piece of me that's like, wow, I'm so proud of how I have grown during this time, and the life changes that I've had throughout these shows and different things that have happened in my life. And I'll say screaming my tears ricochet with 50,000 people felt really, really good last weekend.
I bet it sure did, Haley. And so, okay, I have a few questions. First of all, well, first, I think we just need to give some more like props to the city, the city of Vancouver. I just feel like they really did go all out. And I don't know how much of that was just like the city on its own. I don't know if like Taylor somehow requests that the city go out, like, and do extra things for her. I somehow feel like that's not it. They just realized like what an opportunity this would be. But I just saw so many fun stories on social media that made me feel good because like the Era Store environment is one of the happiest places on earth. And it sounded like just everyone invading Vancouver for this. Like I saw a story, Haley, where, and again, I have not fact checked any of this to know if it's true or if it's just someone on social media saying this story, but I like it and I'm believing that it's true, that the doors on the aircraft had closed, Haley, and they were like, we have two more fans trying to get to the show. We're like going to wait. And they waited and then reopened the doors. And for all of us who have ever been just outside the window of opportunity to catch the plane, I mean, that's a big deal if that did happen. And then they said that these two people came on and everyone cheered and was like so excited that they waited for them and they let these women on to get to Vancouver. So things like that, I just feel like that, I have to say that even from afar, it's like you can follow along and just have fun with it. And it's just such a fun environment. And I think that especially last week was really exciting for you to be a part of. And I lived totally vicariously. If you could rank your Taylor Swift Era Store experiences, like, could you even? Is it possible?
No, that's like ranking your children. I can't. Like I said, they're all different. And I will say this was my first indoor experience, and that was different. I mean, and the lights were different. It's just a different show every time. And you're still wondering what she's going to wear, what the surprise songs are going to be. I will say our surprise songs, the mashup of Never
Tim
Grow
McGraw,
Up.
did she used to do Tim McGraw for you guys?
No.
Okay, that was the next night, maybe.
She did Never Grow Up. She did a mashup of Never Grow Up and The Best Day, which Katie is a mom to a 3-year-old. And like, I mean, I'm not a mom, but I have a mom. And it's just like that mashup is like heartstrings. Oh my goodness. Because it is just about like, obviously like children and also just really having the best day with your mom. And I wasn't there necessarily with my mom, but I've had some really good days with my mom, and I've had some really good days with my friends too. And I think that's one of the magic pieces of Taylor's music, is that you know, even if she writes it for a certain kind of relationship, you can apply it to different ones, and it's just so incredible. And I don't know how she does it, but somehow like I'm watching her and it's just so incredible, and it makes me feel better about myself. And I don't know how she has that magic ability, but I've, you know, had a little bit of like confidence issues recently with life and everything. And I just was so thankful that I got to have that experience again, and kind of just like jolt me into this, like, no, you're doing okay. Everything is going to be okay, and feel better about myself. And, you know, even though I've had questionable life decisions lately, I'm like, they led me to this position where I am here with two friends behind the stage, watching Taylor Swift, watching this woman who's incredibly talented, incredibly hardworking, put on an incredible show. And it just makes me want to like work harder and do other things with my life. And so I'm really, really thankful for that. And I know. And Vancouver, thank you, Vancouver, because it was fun to be in a city that was like really embracing all the Swiftiness.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us. Haley, one thing we are going to rank, I'm moving on unless you have anything else because I have a segue to our next topic.
No, let's talk about racing. I think
Yeah,
is that
we
what
can
there's a
rank.
big racing. There's racing that happened last weekend, and then there's big racing happening this weekend.
Yes. So this weekend is the 70.3 World Championships in Taupo, New Zealand. Haley, I've raced there, and it's a great place to race. We can rank our picks here, but let's talk about the race a little bit there. So it is, you know, it's been interesting to see people head out there early and kind of start to experience like what New Zealand has to offer triathlon, because it is a great place. They also, you know, similar to how Vancouver embraces the Swifties, New Zealand embraces triathlon for sure. But it comes with challenges, right? Like can be super windy there on the bike. The water is going to be quite chilly this time of year there. The roads are chip sealed, right? So if you went out to Taupo expecting like buttery smooth roads, you are finding something else to be the case out there, right? So it's gonna be you know, it's been fun to watch people get out there, get adjusted to the time zone, being in the southern hemisphere, just kind of getting their bearings around the town. But it is a place that really embraces triathlon. I think it's a great venue for a world championship. I have always enjoyed racing there.
I'm really enjoying watching the photos that are coming out of social media. It just looks so beautiful. I haven't been there myself, but I have a few athletes who will be racing this weekend, and I'm excited to track them and also watch the action in the women's pro race, because it is late in the year. It is mid-December, and it's going to be a fierce battle. Off seasons don't exist anymore.
I know. Not for these women, at least, that's for sure. You know, like you said, I think we were talking a little bit before we recorded. I mean, the qualifying window for this, it seems like it's been going on for forever, right? We've been talking about this race coming and happening. And December I mean, it makes like scanning the start list. It's like, I know a lot of these women were racing in April in Oceanside. I also know a lot of them were racing before that, you know? And so again, they probably have structured strategically breaks throughout their season, but regardless, it's a long time, right? It's a long time to be going through some holiday season stuff, right? With people getting ready for that and being like, no, I don't just have a race, right? It's a world championship event that I need to be ready for. And I agree. I think the women that are towing the line are going to be ready.
I agree. So are we moving on? Are we doing our picks?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes. Okay. So do you want me to go first?
Sure, or I'll go. What do you prefer?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I am going to go with Taylor Knibb for the win. Defending champion, won the T100, just so incredible at the 70.3 distance. And I do think the Taupo, I mean, I think Taylor doesn't show up unless she thinks she's going to do really well. And the Taupo course is probably going to suit her. In second, I'm actually going to pick Paula Findlay, because that is where I do think, this being a more like colder race, you know, in the
Mm.
terms of triathlon. I don't think it's going to be actually that cold. I mean, it is in December because we are moving into Southern Hemisphere winter or summer. And so I don't think it's supposed to be super cold, but I just think Paula does so well when it's like a colder swim and just a slightly colder race. And we've seen her do so well in races like St. George. And I'm just imagining this is like a slightly similar type of environment. And Paula's another one. I don't think she shows up unless she's ready to go. And so I think, you know, I'm picking her for second. And then third is Ash Gentle, who is an athlete that I actually think, you know, we saw her in Dubai come so close to Taylor and not quite make it, finishing third there. And I do usually pick Ash for hotter races. And so this is a little bit different, but I think it being Southern Hemisphere racing, she is coming from her summer. And so I think she's probably like energized coming from Australia in New Zealand, short travel for her, and maybe has a little bit of a chip on her shoulder after Dubai to like, you know, get back on that podium. And so, I mean, she podiumed in Dubai, but like, I think, yeah, I'm picking her for top three. And then, my dark mare, which I mean, I know I give everyone a little bit of a hard time for dark mares that are actually kind of big names, but Tamara Jewett is ranked 29th, bib number 29, which I think qualifies as dark mare. And I think she is someone that people don't always see coming. She's had some really incredible races, and I think she's another one, another Canadian. I just think these cold conditions are going to be really, really good for her, and like cold-ish conditions. And then I think it also be she's been in New Zealand for, I think she went straight from Dubai to New Zealand, has had plenty of time to adjust to the time zone and the conditions, knows the course. And I think that Tamara is just a cerebral athlete that races well when she's had time to like really take in a course. And so I expect a good day from her.
All right. Well, we share our first place picks. I'm also picking Taylor Knibb for the win. I believe I actually picked Ash Gentle for second. I think similar reasoning to you, that I think she might have a little bit of a, you know, not, I don't know, chip on her shoulder is probably a good way to put it, but I think she had more to show in Dubai, and I think she's going to want to show that. I think that she also probably, you know, if she recovered well from that, probably fitness wise is feeling pretty good again, to give it a go. So I picked Ash for second. I picked Julie Darren for third. Julie is coming off of a really, really good year, with a silver medal in the Olympics, and she kind of burst onto the T100 scene after that, right? And then, you know, now coming, I just feel like she's very fast, and I think she likes racing. And I think you put those two things together with someone, and I think they know how to make it happen. My dark mare, Caroline Pohl. Is that how we say her last name?
I think it's
hope so.
Pole. I've learned this, like German words, if they have an E on the end, you pronounce it.
Pronounce
So it's
the
like
E,
Portia,
okay.
like Patrick Lenga,
Oh yeah.
Annie Haug,
Pol
Pole.
Pola.
I think it's Carolina
Langa?
Pole.
Okay. Caroline.
Like you pronounce the E at the end of Caroline.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm teaching German now.
I know. Oh,
I
gosh,
went to Munich once and saw Taylor Swift, and now I speak German. And then I had a few conversations with Annie Haug.
All right. Well, if you look at her results, I mean, someone who races the 70.3 distance very, very well, she fits the bill. You know, we again talked a little bit before we hit record, and there are 70.3 specialists, you know, and admittedly, I often am paying attention to full distance athletes, but so I don't even know, maybe she's not even a dark mare. Maybe everyone's like, no, we're all picking her for our podium too, but I think she is one to watch out for. But gosh, it was really hard. I think there's a lot of strong women there. I think again, people are coming to race. It's the last race of the Ironman Pro Series, and Haley, if you want to explain that a little bit, it looks like, you know, we don't know
Big
what's gonna
money,
happen, but we
big
know what
money
could happen.
is on, I mean, $210,000 for first place in that pro series. And it looks like Kat Matthews. Kat Matthews is currently Jackie Herring ranked first, Kat Matthews ranked second, but Kat is Kat does not have 5 races counting. She only has 4. So she will get full points from this 70.3 championship, which Jackie has 5 races, will only replace a race. So with that gap, it is very likely Kat will take the lead in the pro series as long as she does not DNF. So if she finishes the race in a reasonable place, she will probably take that lead, which we've seen Kat Matthews race so strong all year, but racing is racing. So you never know. You never know. And that's why we do the race. So it will be really, really interesting to see how things shake up. I think Lottie Vilms is another one who doesn't have a full 5 races. So it'll be good to see her on there and see if she can mix it up in that top 10, move up a couple places. And I mean, just this pro series hasn't really turned out how I necessarily would have thought at the beginning of the year, but it's very cool. Those top 10 will make good money. I think 10th place gets $10,000, and then it goes down to from 11th through 50th get $5,000. So very cool that there will be quite a few women who are coming away from this year with a little bonus that hopefully will help them with those race fees and travel fees for 2025, and just keep the sport growing and more fast racing. And, it just takes away a little bit of that financial pressure that I know has hindered me in the past at certain times, including right now, but that's okay. That's a story for another day on another show. But anyway, it's very cool. I'll be interested to see how that pro series ends up, and good luck to the women who are fighting for those top 10 spots.
And we do have an interview today. Haley, are you ready to hear about it? Oh,
yes, but wait, can I give one other? I have one other little tidbit that I needed to share. I just realized this because we're talking about airplanes. Taylor Swift leaving Vancouver. Can I tell you who I was behind in line in security, like going to customs, leaving Vancouver?
Will I guess it? Do you think I could guess it?
I think you could guess it with a hint. Yes.
Like
I think if I gave a very obvious hint.
Leaving Vancouver.
Okay, I was leaving Vancouver.
Triathlon or Swift? Like where should my brain be?
Ultra runner.
Ultra runner. Gary Robbins?
No, woman. I don't recognize men. Are you kidding me? They all look the same.
Who would you recognize?
She's hard to miss.
Nice.
She's
she's
your Barkley competitor, same race as you in the Barkley marathons. If I got a chance, I was gonna name drop you.
Courtney DeWalter?
Yes.
Oh, really? That's not what I was expecting. Oh.
I know. Do you think she's a Swiftie, or do you think she was there running?
I was gonna say, did you ask her to come on the podcast? And I'm like, shoot, we don't have any left.
I know. I had no motivation. Otherwise, I would have cut that security line. I'd be like, I gotta get this. We were actually on the same flight from Vancouver to Denver, but she was in economy comfort and I was not. So next time I'll pay for the upgrade and maybe the show will continue.
Oh, the lives of niche sport professional athletes. Like, you get to really see the ranking system play out. Oh, that's awesome though. That is one person that's one person I wish we had been able to talk to through the years. But hopefully my path will cross with her again at some point, and I'll talk to her more than I did when I said hello in the bathroom of the campground at Barkley.
That's more than I said. So, I mean, between the two of us, like, we're basically her best friends.
Yes.
But still very cool to see, elite athlete out in the wild. And I thought it was a good sign. But we have an interview from another elite athlete, multi-sport athlete, and I'm excited for this one.
Yes. So, Haley, today on the show, we hear from Emma Pooley. Emma Pooley is an Olympian, a world champion. She holds a doctorate in engineering. So you can imagine we had a thing or two to talk about. And we actually talked, Haley, back in the summer. I want to say this was like May or June. So everyone listening, just keep in mind, some of these things are from before some big things happened, like the Olympics, okay? So keep that in mind. We also discussed her career in triathlon and cycling, as well as her current focus running for Switzerland in the ultra trail running world. Emma talks to us about the Green Runners and why she joined them, and about her newest venture, which you might call an autobiography, which is based on the fueling she uses while training Emma developed her own recipes for on-the-go nutrition using whole grain oats and natural ingredients. So she talks to us about that book, which is coming out soon, Oat to Joy. A lot of good stuff in this. Emma is a great human and athlete, and you will hear from Emma after a word from our sponsors. Hi, Emma. Welcome to the IronWomen podcast.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you very much for having me.
Gosh, so we are having you. I feel like we could have had you on multiple times over the last decade to talk about so many different things, but I'm excited to have you here now, kind of at this phase where you are in life. And I wanted to start out by chatting a little bit about where I believe you have been in recent weeks. I think I did some Instagram stalking, and I think you just tackled two big gravel races. And I think, let me see if my research is correct. I believe the first one was about 360 kilometers. And then the second one, you started just about 4 or 5 days later. And that was a 400-kilometer self-supported gravel ride. So first of all, is that like, how long ago did you finish these? Am I correct in my research that this is the most recent thing you've been doing?
Yeah, excellent stalking. Good work. Well, yeah, first, thanks very much for inviting me, and it's taken a while for us to find a date that works, and I appreciate your patience. But yeah, the gravel events were look, I've loved riding off-road ever since I stopped racing on the road. I really like the sort of exploring side of it, but not really racing. And then this year, I, for various reasons, have had a bit less time for other sports, and also I've been injured, so I couldn't run. And both those events were organized by friends, and I'd heard about them, and I was like, oh, that sounds really fun. And I thought, well, it'd be a great target of something that I didn't really want to race them, but I thought they're like the kind of thing that's such a fun challenge, or such a big challenge, but also fun. And I thought it would be a good like intermediate, or like a little goal at the start, or in the first half of this year, when I knew I turned out to be injured for even longer than I thought. So yeah, and then so I signed up for one of them, organized by a friend who I know from previous events. He organizes Dead Ends and Cake, which is this fantastic, I mean, all his events are fantastic. And then the other event, it turned out, was just the weekend before, and I thought, yeah, I'm an endurance athlete, I'll be fine. It turns out I am not as fit as I used to be. But or maybe it's just a different kind of challenge. So they were about a month ago now, when we were recording this, and so they were in sort of towards the end of May, and they were fantastic. But the tough thing about those events is the lack of sleep. So like even an Ironman or a Zofingen or an Alpe d'Huez triathlon, they're really long, and you don't have a great night's sleep beforehand, but you normally don't ride through the night. And I didn't really get any sleep at either of them, and it was hard. Yeah, not having sleep feel like I was gonna use a bad word, like it feels bad, as I'm sure like any parents listening know, with having young kids or whatever. Anyway, so yeah, it was a really fun challenge. I'm really glad I did them. I'm not sure I want to ride 400 kilometers in one go ever again. but I've done it now.
And so okay. You talked to, and you said that, you're kind of using these as kind of an aerobic, like a fun fitness thing while you've been injured. And, I guess I'm curious, like, are you able to really not take it competitively, right? Like, where are you kind of in that competitive career, because you have been racing at such a high level for so long, and you started in road cycling, transitioned to all sorts of triathlon and duathlon, and then mountain running most recently, right? So do you feel like at this time, you are able to take a more relaxed, fun approach to things, or, not so much?
That is really tricky, actually. And I think for me, it's always been key, like enjoying the sport was always really at the core of it. So like, okay, not in every moment of every bike race was I having fun, because some things about, especially road cycling, are pretty stressful. And, triathlon is really hard. And there are times when you kind of wish you hadn't signed up, but it's always been important to me to find the fun in it. And so that's not a problem. I can normally find something to enjoy in the suffering, even when something is really tough, and I think that's really important. And I do it more consciously now maybe than 10 years ago, but I did a bit of soul searching, and it's been really helpful for that. And then like dealing with so I think that for me the challenge is dealing with not being as good as I want to be, which is, I mean, every athlete has that at every level. And so, or maybe I should say, I mean, I always had that even when I was world champion. You know, there were days you think, oh, I could have done better, but maybe it's more like comparing to the past. So yeah, I'm unquestionably slower. Like, I mean, I have barely run in 9 months because of injury. So I tried running yesterday on the track, and my pace is like, I don't know, 15% off, and that's for short reps, you know. So and cycling, yeah, I'll never be as fast as I was when I was a full-time pro. And I've accepted that logically a long time ago, and accepting it emotionally takes a bit of work. And yeah, I can definitely enjoy an event when I'm not at the front. There's a different feeling to enjoying it at the front, and that's okay. But I think actually it's one of my motivations for still doing things like that. These gravel events, like it's cool if I am one of the faster ones, and in one of those events I was, and the other one I was really not. Like, I was really slow, and I still found things to enjoy about it. And the things that I didn't enjoy about it were not about being slow. I had like pain, like more pain than even you'd expect. Like, I had back pain and saddle pain, and those things were a bit miserable. But I was genuinely happy for the people who were faster than me. Like, I'm really pleased for them, and I find that quite a positive way of going to an event anyway, to be like, you know, if someone's quicker, then that's great. Awesome. Well done them.
Yeah,
And
I
I'll
know.
go and find them and say well done.
I love that point that, you know, accepting kind of your place now logically is something that had to be done differently from accepting that emotionally. I think that's, you know, probably a light bulb moment for some people, because I think there are now, right, so many opportunities where people often stop becoming an elite or stop racing as an elite, right? But they still want to go out and have fun. And it's a two-pronged approach to be able to kind of sit with where you are and to have fun. But I do want to ask too, so the self-supported gravel ride definitely piqued my interest, because I know a lot more about like the self-supported FKT world, and kind of having watched people, you know, make attempts there. And typically professional athletes don't do as well at self-supported events, right? They do really well at supported things where it's just like a race environment where you're kind of catered to, you know, you can get help, you can arrange that for yourself. Do you like the self-supported aspect? Had you done them before with the gravel ride? Was this the first time? And was that the one, I guess, where you struggled a bit more? And do you think that's an aspect of that?
I like it in some ways. Yeah, so they're in like the specifics of fixing a bicycle. I mean, so maybe stepping back a bit, like when I raced triathlon, I was kind of effectively self-supported, because I didn't have like a mechanic at races with me. If something happened, I had to fix it myself or find a local bike shop that would help me. And so I got very resourceful at finding local bike shops. But, you know, I can fix basic stuff. And then the first time I did a self-supported gravel bike event was in 2019. And I was really scared going into it that something would go wrong and I couldn't fix it. Because I can fix some things, but like I can't fix electronic gears on the road, or, you know, no one can really. And something did go wrong.
Falls off, then you're just kind of done, right?
And something did go wrong, and I had to like literally Google it at the side of the road. It was so embarrassing, and I lost like an hour. But it turned out that hour didn't matter in the big scheme of things. I caught it up, and I felt like an idiot, but also I was like, well, this thing never happened to my bike before. And so I tried to see it with a bit of a sense of humor, like, I'm learning something. Don't get too stressed. And like, it doesn't actually matter. Like, I mean, you could argue that no races matter, but compared to the level of pressure I used to be under when it was my job, I mean, we always choose to race, whatever level. It's always a choice. But now I literally go out of my way to look for like wacky, crazy, long stuff. And so if something goes wrong, or like, the weather's terrible, you can't think, oh no, it's raining, I didn't expect this. You think, well, I signed up not knowing what the weather was going to be like, or whether I'd get a puncture. And so when I I do slightly worry that something bad will happen to the bike and I won't be able to fix it. But I can do the basic stuff that normally goes wrong. Like I don't always carry spare pedals, for example. So if I broke a pedal on one of those events, I'd have to catch a train to get back. But that is also possible. So
Yeah, yeah. And so while we're kind of on the topic of where you are now, Emma, you are an Olympian. And so, I'm talking to you now, this will be released later, but I'm talking to you now as we kind of enter the month before the Olympic season and
Yeah.
all eyes are on Paris. It's like Olympic fever. I don't know if it is. I believe you're in Switzerland right now, but I don't, I feel like all eyes when you're thinking about sports are on the Olympics. As someone who has competed at that level and has, been to the Olympic Games, does an Olympic year is there nostalgia that comes with that? Or are you just past that in your life? I'm curious.
I'd like to say I'm past it, but yeah, there is a bit of a nostalgia actually. Yeah, it's a little weird because I competed at the Olympics for Britain 3 times, and but I've been living in Switzerland half my life. I came here for study, and I got Swiss citizenship 4 years ago, so just before the Tokyo Games should have happened, and so now I consider myself Swiss. Not, I don't know if you'd have to say first or second, but like I certainly spend most of my time here, and I work in German, and I speak the local language and stuff. And so it's a bit of a like, oh, the Olympics made me feel very British, and but yeah, there's a little bit of nostalgia. I mean, yeah, I guess it's easy to look back and remember the good times, and there was definitely some good times. And I feel incredibly lucky that I could go to the Olympics at all. It's certainly not something I dreamed of as a kid because I wasn't at the level where it was even considered. So, I mean, I was a runner as a kid, but not a very good one. And I loved running, but there's no way I was going to make an Olympic. So for me, it was very much a surprise. And so I have a bit of nostalgia for that, like incredible, like wow moment of being put on the long list, and then the wow moment of being selected, and then in my first Olympics I got a silver medal, so that was like wow, off the scale. Like it was amazing. And so those positive emotions, I can still remember them, but they're still there. Like I still remember how great it felt, and it certainly ain't gonna happen again. So I don't feel nostalgia. I don't want to try and compete again. It's certainly not something I even want, like I would even want to try to do. So and actually we're kind of lucky. Talking about Olympic fever in Europe, it's the European Football Championships, and so everyone's talking about football, and so it's not even really much on the radar yet.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess you'll give it time, I'm sure, eventually.
Yeah.
But that is good to know that I talked to Julie Darren last week, and she's prepping for the Olympics, and so I don't want to pry too much to someone like about to go, but it's a very interesting insight from someone who's a bit removed from their time in the Olympics, and it's encouraging to hear that you do. It's easy to remember those good times, and it's not like major haunting by any downsides of the Olympics, because I think when I love the Olympics. I think a lot of our listeners probably do, right? It's like such a fun thing to watch, but there's always that question of mine of, athletes' mental health and kind of thinking about performing on that stage and carrying that with them later in life. So it's great.
Yeah,
this is your experience, not necessarily everyone's, but that is good to hear.
Well, I made a conscious effort to try and be positive about it, because like at the time I can also remember that it wasn't all fun. Like you don't go there to have fun, and it's certainly not a big old party. Anyone who's got a chance of doing well has been selected, not just to sort of show up and get the tracksuit. And for me, I certainly found it pretty stressful at the time, but I'm also aware of the huge privilege it was to go, and so I don't want to make it sound negative. It's just like, I looking back, I kind of wish I'd dealt with some of the stresses better, but I can't change that now. I can only kind of look forward, and it's not all positive. Like I think some of the sponsorship issues around the Olympics are issues, but it's funny because as a kid I watched the running at the Olympics, and it was so inspirational to me. Like I cried when my hero won, and I couldn't believe it. And so it's yeah, it's a special thing. I think something that's very special for women, sorry for banging on about the Olympics, but like something that's really special for female cyclists is certainly when I was racing, the Olympics was the biggest event. It got the most viewership. So I think if you're a male cyclist, the Tour de France is more high profile. Actually, I think if you ask most male pro cyclists, they would rather win the Tour de France than win an Olympic gold medal, or win a like the polka dot jersey or the green jersey or whatever. I've heard. And then in Ironman triathlon, like winning Kona is a big deal. Sponsored by someone, you wouldn't obviously there's no Ironman length race at the Olympics. But for us then it was like the event with the biggest visibility, and so it really, really mattered. Like it was so high pressure, but also so high opportunity. And yeah, and what you realize at some point as an athlete is that your job isn't just to try and win, it is to represent sport to people. And for me back then, that was the event that had the most reach, and so it was the most important thing in terms of showing, hey, this sport is really fun, it's awesome, come and do it, to kids and grown-ups. And I realized that at the London Olympics, when the feedback was just insane, like everyone was like, wow, your race was amazing, I didn't know what it was like, and where can I watch more women's bike racing? And I was like, yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, and that was the start of something else that we'll probably talk about. But yeah, so yeah, the Olympics was pretty special, like personally, but also in terms of how I viewed sport, I think, because I realized how important that visibility is because of the Olympics.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, the women today are standing on the shoulders of giants like yourself who helped, pave this way for cycling, which now, I wonder if you talk to them, is it the Olympics that still hold that kind of prestige? And now that women's cycling is taking off, right? People are watching the women's Tour de France. They're getting more moments, right? Not enough moments, but they're getting more moments. And I think I would wager it's probably been very inspiring for them to follow the likes of Emma Pooley, who really felt that responsibility to make, it look fun, right? Make cycling look like something powerful that was good to watch and exciting for people to watch, because, they're still doing this a decade plus later, right? And with the women's tour. And so can you tell us a little bit about, like, I think you were a founding member of Le Tour Entier, which was part of the campaign for the Women's Tour de France. So, was it that feeling of just kind of social responsibility that, you're so busy, you're an Olympian, right? You had training full time, you had all of that. And so finding athletes that balance those two together is so rare.
Well, it's funny because I actually was also working part-time at that point when I was racing. Like at that point, I was trying to finish my PhD as well, and it was I probably shouldn't have done it because I didn't have the time for it. But yeah, the campaign for the Tour de France, for a women's Tour de France, was born out of, like, from my part, frustration, because I was racing at a really high level. Like I was literally the best in the world once, and I was up there in the top 10 of most races, like that suited me anyway, anything with a hill, and I was frustrated at the lack of representation of women's cycling on the public stage. And, like, to be honest, it started off as a personal thing. Like I was just a bit miffed that I was doing all this, getting all these results, and like people who followed women's cycling knew about it, but everyone else was like, man, whatever. And it was very hard not to compare to the men's sport, and it's so glamorous, and the tour and the tour and the tour, and a bit of me was like, I just because, well, I think what it was is a lot of people would ask me, like, oh, so have you raced the tour? And I was like, well, how many women have you seen racing the tour? And they were like, oh, but there's a women's tour, isn't there? And I would be like, nope. Nope, not since the 80s, actually. And I realized that if you're in cycling, it was seen as normal. Like, we had some great races. Like, our Giro has always been, like, it's been for decades, it's been a really fantastic race. Like, the standard's really high, really exciting racing, but it was only on TV in Italy, so elsewhere people wouldn't see it really. And then our other races were also mostly fantastic. Like, I'm convinced they would have made great viewing on TV, but there was no TV coverage of them. And if you were in cycling, it was just normal that there was no women's tour. But for people who didn't really know the sport, they would always ask about the Tour because it was the thing they knew about. Like, it's the thing that non-cyclists know about cycling is the Tour de France. And they'd always ask, and I'd be like, no, but I mean, I've done other tours in France. Like, do you want to hear about the Tour of Brittany or the Tour of the Ardèche or the Tour of Languedoc-Roussillon? And they'd be like, nah. If you don't race the Tour, I don't care. And it's like, ah. And so I thought, yeah, it's what people want to see. And I realized that was also an opportunity. Sorry, turning into a long story, but yeah, so that was pretty frustrating. Like, and also I realized that when I was a kid and I watched sport on TV, I didn't want to watch only men competing. I wanted to, I mean, I'm not against watching men competing, but I think it's important to see both. And I wanted to, I couldn't understand why cycling is so different from other sports. Like, all the other sports have pretty much the same opportunity for women, and I suspect the money's not quite the same in most sports, but at least the opportunity to run a marathon or run a 10K or do an Ironman triathlon is the same. And it would be inconceivable in running now to say, oh no, women can't run a full marathon. Like, that was like 60 years ago in running, and it's dealt with now. And so I got a bit frustrated, and I think it's because I came to cycling late as an outsider, and yeah, it was frustrating. And I basically just wanted to race the Tour. So I realized that the visibility of the Tour was also an opportunity, because the fact that a lot of people who watched the Tour didn't know about the inequality meant that they might care about it, whereas people who are in cycling just saw it as normal. So yeah, I mentioned this to Catherine Bertine when we were she was recording an interview with me for her film Half the Road, and I mentioned it as an idea, like, what if we did a campaign to show ASO that there is demand to watch women cycling in a Tour de France. And she is a brilliant campaigner, and so she took that idea and ran with it, and we formed this campaign group with crucially with Chrissy Wellington and Marianne Vos, so two like absolute superstars, like leagues above me, and also in terms of their reach and potential. And like, Chrissy is such a great ambassador for sport in general, but especially for women's sport, I think. And Vos is just the best cyclist ever. So yeah, with them we it just started out as a crazy idea, and then it turned into a big campaign, and it was successful. But geez, did it cost time when I should have been writing my PhD. And I'm really glad we did it, but I think if I'd known how hard it would be, I might not have done it.
Well, I can say that, as someone who is enjoying the like fruits of the labor that you put forth, right? I never competed professionally in cycling, but I think triathlon used a lot of that momentum that was going as, we campaigned for 50 Women to Kona and getting equal men and women on the start line there. And so, when I was working through that project, it was very rare to find someone at the top of the game who was willing to put in the work and do the work. And I love to hear it from your perspective, and more than anything would want to say thank you, because it meant a lot. It will continue to mean a lot to women in sport for many years to come.
Thank you. Well, I'm flattered, but I mean, I was just a tiny piece in the big pile of contribution, and I think like Chrissy and Mariana, they put a huge amount into it. And then there were other people who maybe are less well heard of, but I'm going to name them now because it's really important that so there was Christy Scrimger, who was a DS in women's cycling, who then went on to work in the cycling industry, and so she was our like representative of director sportif in our group. And we had Steve Beckett, who worked in cycling sponsorship with teams, so in the like commercial side. He was the only man in the group, but it was important to us that we had a mix of genders, let's say. And Tracy Pinder, who is just a brilliant, she works in media. I don't know if you've met her, but she's a friend of Chrissy's, and absolutely brilliant. And yeah, and then me and Catherine and Chrissy and Mariana and everyone put in a lot of work, because I think we needed the voices of other people who work behind the scenes in cycling to really bring a good case to ASO. And then anyway, like, the petition got 100,000 signatures, and ASO ended up having a meeting with us, which was a big concession. And I think that off the back of our campaign, La Course started, which kind of grew into the tour, the women's tour. But I don't know, like, I'd like to think that it would have happened anyway, because the demand is there, and that means if there's demand from viewers, that means there's a commercial opportunity, which was always our argument. Like ASO is not a charity; they have to show that they need to make money. So so I think it would have happened anyway. But I certainly think it was important to. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when you see something is not quite right or not right, you should try and do something about it. And I was a bit disappointed that so many people in cycling were happy with the status, just to go along with the status quo and not say anything. And when you speak out, you realize why, because it makes you really unpopular with some people. But actually, I don't mind making enemies of the right kind, let's say. And then so I'd like to say the other thing about our campaign group was that Steve Beckett went on to work at Zwift. And you know, the reason the women's tour finally got off the ground is that Zwift put the money in and insisted that the money should be used to fund a women's tour. So that, like, we've got to say, give a huge amount of credit to Zwift, who are also not doing it because they're a charity. They see the potential in women's sport, and women's sport doesn't have to be a charity. Like, women do sport, women consume sporting goods, and so all the same reasons why men's sport should be on TV to inspire and sell stuff. Although I'm not a fan of great consumerism, but like that's the reason the sport is on TV, like sponsored sport. So yeah, well done, Zwift.
Yes, no, thank you for bringing that up. And I, even as I deal with an injury myself, I continue my Zwift membership for that reason, because we had Kate Verano
Yeah.
On the podcast before, and I remember her kind of telling that story about the you know, them funding the women's Tour de France so much,
it's
and
so important.
it does feel good when your money is going to things that you believe in like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it does make a
I
difference.
think they're also getting paid, but
Yes.
What's your injury? What's wrong?
Oh, I've had quite a saga with my knee, and you can relate to injuries, but I tore the root of my meniscus, and that's been yeah, quite, it's I had 2 surgeries now for it, so I'm 10 weeks post-op from the second surgery, and we'll see. It's a big question mark still for kind of how it'll go, but so far it's progressing okay. So but I didn't bring you on here either to talk about my injury or your past with cycling. So you know, you mentioned that you had been dealing with running injuries as well, and I think you had a ski touring accident where you hurt your MCL, and I think that came on the heels of maybe a stress fracture or something similar from running. So can you kind of talk about where you stand right now with running? Are you able to start running at all, or are you just cycling your legs away still, waiting for the healing?
So I'm very, very excited at the moment because I've done a week of running, not every day, but without any knee pain. And this feels like a huge amount of progress. I basically got injured at the start of October last year with what felt like a stress fracture, or the start of a stress fracture, and it just did not go away despite me unloading and then unloading more and being told I didn't unload enough. You know, it's yeah. I found the management really difficult, and then because I couldn't run, I did a lot of ski touring in winter, and I just had a silly accident and tore my MCL, and then so then I couldn't run or ski, but I could ride my bike after a while, but in the second of those long gravel events, like just towards the end, my other knee started hurting. Just
oh no.
It's just like, oh, it's just tired. You know, it was like 30 hours almost non-stop with a heavy bike up some very steep muddy climbs, and so I was like, oh no, it'll be fine, I'll just give it a bit of a rest and eat plenty of protein and drink some good tea, and a month passed with like and so by then the other knee was hurting more than the one I tore skiing, and I was so miserable. I was like, am I never going to run again? And of all the sports, I love running the most. It's the thing I've loved since I was a kid, and I know I can't run as much as I want to because I get injured, but this was very frustrating. But I've had a week of running very carefully with no pain, and I'm so excited. Sorry, I know if you can't run how miserable it is, but I am so excited because I love running so much.
No, I can get excited with you for that, because I understand the painfulness of not being able to do it. So I can still channel that excitement. But and Emma, you found a lot of success with mountain running. And so, you know, was trail running something you had always done in the background? Because again, that's not necessarily a major strength. A lot of times you put an Ironman athlete right on the trails and they're like tripping over their own 2 feet. And it's a different style of racing and running, and it's a sport into its own, right? So Had you been training kind of in mountains and stuff and trail running for quite a while and knew that you would take to it pretty well?
So I knew I wanted to do it, and that's because as a kid I ran cross country, and I always ran in my off seasons, and I love the mountains so much. Like I want to do my sport as much as possible in the mountains, and so and I'd done quite a few uphill running races, and uphill running is quite similar to cycling. Like it's all like VO2 max and like lung capacity and ability to suffer and lactate and strength. You don't need much sort of elastic return in your legs. So it was actually my plan after triathlon to, I knew that when I was working, it would be really hard to train at the same level for Ironman. It's just so much time. And I have a huge amount of respect for people who do train for Ironman alongside a job, but I just didn't think I could do it. And I wanted a bit of a break from that serious feeling of competition. So I wanted to try trail running. I knew I was okay at running uphill. I am actually really bad when it's technical. And I've had quite a few injuries. So I do trip over both feet quite often. I've got so many scars from running now. I've torn the ankle ligaments on both sides, but I've been doing that since I was a teenager because I ran before I cycled. And so I have really weak ankles, which makes me nervous. And I don't trust my vision very much anymore, which just sounds crazy, but I don't see well downhill moving fast, which means that I end up moving slowly downhill, which does not help you win a race. But there's the cool thing about trail running, a bit like triathlon is there are lots of different kinds of trail races. So trails can be anything from like a nice gravel track to really technical, like semi-mountaineering. And I'd like to do some of the more tough ones, but I know that realistically I'm going to do better at the ones that are easier technical wise. And like a lot of things, like the technical side is trainable. Like I'm never going to be really good, but I can improve by training agility and things, which I haven't done because of injuries, but the plan is to get back onto that. And the most important thing for me is to enjoy, if I'm going to do an event, is to enjoy it. And I love being out in the mountains. So even in the races where I'm really bad, I still mostly enjoy. and it's just, yeah.
Well, I think the potential is definitely there for you because I actually hadn't realized that you had moved into mountain running and were having great success until watching the UTMB broadcast last year.
That was really bad, actually, in the end.
But... Well, in the beginning, you actually started out in the mix, like of, with people I heard, and I was like, Emma Pooley. I was like, Emma Pooley's racing. And so I was so excited to see you out there. And I know the race didn't go probably as you wanted. But I guess I'd love to hear, and I think now that Ironman and UTMB are kind of together, I think a lot of listeners are more aware of UTMB. So what was your kind of just thoughts about the race? I think I've heard everything from people from it's great, everyone should try and get in, to there's too many people. It's just, it's overwhelming. So kind of where did you stand in that?
I actually, how can I put it? I hadn't made it a big goal because it's so hard to qualify. And you have to be a bit like Ironman. You have to put everything into qualifying for that race. Like you can't do that many races that are that long every year. So just to qualify, you have to kind of commit to doing that. A lot like if you're a pro trying to qualify for Kona, you either have, or you have one great result. But and then I realized that I could actually get in off of a result from 2021. And I thought, well, maybe I'll never get the chance. So I asked, you have to sort of request to like size up the distance. Anyway, they said yes. And so I thought, well, this might be my only opportunity. I don't know if I'm going to do long races again. And I thought, well, apparently it's a great experience. I should go and do it. But last year, so I ended up actually getting to the start line last year in 2022. But last year, my race distance was much shorter. Like I raced anything up to 30K and mostly uphill races. So like about an hour uphill or 30K races. So I think the longest race I did was about 5 hours. But it's kind of easier to go slower than go faster, I thought. So, well, that's just go slower and run for longer. Like, I'm obviously not quite that stupid, but like I did try and prepare for it. But and then so I was really excited about the experience, and then I have to say I did find it pretty stressful. And I went off way too fast, which is what everyone said not to do, and of course I did it. And but I have done, so my longest race up to then had been 100 kilometers, and I started way too fast in inverted commas in that one, and it worked out really well. Like I beat everyone, including all the men. So I was like, well, you know, the don't start too fast thing, I mean, it's a rule of thumb, like it's a general rule. Like if you want to be at the front, then you've got to ignore the general rules. You've got to kind of do things differently. But I did start too fast, and I think that was probably a contributing factor to having like really bad stomach problems. I didn't eat or drink enough in the first bit because it was very stressful with all those people and the like filming crew and stuff, and it didn't really feel like most of my trail races there, you know, you see people but not a lot of them, and it was kind of too many people. And then I suddenly got thirsty, drank too much, ended up with really bad stomach problems, and got a bit dizzy, and then I didn't eat anything for hours, and then it was kind of over. So yeah, in retrospect, not the best experience, but I'm still kind of glad I tried. I don't like feeling like an idiot, you know, like, oh, I'll just go and do it and run too fast and do everything wrong and drop out. But I did the best I could, and it didn't work out well, but I think I probably won't try again.
Okay, well, I won't hold you to that because I would love to see you try again. So we'll leave that open-ended, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
And you know, with your running career at this point, you recently announced that you would be leaving your relationship with Solomon, and you would be joining the Green Runners, who have the ranks of some very high profile athletes, one of which I just talked to a few weeks ago, Jasmine Paris.
Did you? Oh, you talked to her. She's my hero.
And
One of my heroes.
I think, yes. Oh, she's just lovely. And so, you know, I think, what went into that decision to kind of, you know, leave the sponsorship and say that this is something you believe in enough, right? To make this choice and put yourself publicly doing this. I think it's one thing for people to make a decision here and there, but to be willing to live life publicly, you know, as with the Green Runners, I think is remarkable.
Yeah, well, it's very important to me to have values and stick to them. And a couple of years ago, I put a bit more thought into like, okay, what's important to me, and what am I going to stand for? And you know, and the environment and protecting it are really important to me. And that doesn't mean trying to be some kind of environmental perfectionist, because the perfect is the enemy of the good, and none of us are perfect, even the greenest of the green. And I think that trying to be sort of preachy about it really puts people off. But I kind of thought, well, what do I really love about doing sport, like especially running? And for me, it's being outside in nature, or as they say in German, in the nature. So it's in the nature, and and I genuinely love it. And I'm really lucky to live in a country which is very clean and well protected, but we have like massive problems with well, yeah, there were problems here with climate change, like melting glaciers, and this year we've had terrible flooding, landslides, and it's partly due to changes in rainfall. That certainly seems to be a contributing factor, and that's what the climate scientists agree on, the majority of them. And I thought, well, what can I do directly? And not much. But I thought about the point of sport, and you know, this comes back a bit to what I said before about the point being to sort of inspire people. But the commercial side of it is all those sponsorship deals are to help people buy stuff. And I've never, like as an independent athlete, I've never represented a sponsor who I didn't think made good stuff, because that would be hypocritical. And look, I love Salomon shoes. I love the Salomon kit. They make really good kit. Like they were the forerunners of the best trail running kit there is, and they still make the best, I think. And so I'm really happy to keep wearing using Salomon equipment and wearing their shoes, and I will, because I've got enough to last me the rest of my life. But I just realized that like encouraging consumption, like excessive consumption, is not something I want to be involved in. And So I'm happy to like say, look, I think this is the best stuff. I wear this, but I'm not happy to be involved in marketing campaigns that push buying a different color t-shirt because it's the in color or something. I take great pleasure in wearing t-shirts that are 10 years old or 20 years old. And some people think I'm weird for that. I think, to me, like, so if I wear a Salomon t-shirt that's 10 years old and it's still in good shape, I think that's a great advert for Salomon, because that shows that their kit it lasts. And the most sustainable thing you can do in terms of consumption is buy stuff that lasts when you buy stuff, and buy less stuff. And that didn't, like, Salomon, they're a fantastic brand and they make great stuff, but they have a certain way of doing their marketing, and it's, I'm not like a big famous runner, so I couldn't say to them, oh, I want to do it differently. It just doesn't work that way. And so we parted on really amicable terms. Like I say, I think this stuff is great, but I just wanted to be able to say what I think about consumption, which is buy less stuff. And that's where the Green Runners came into it. So I followed Jasmine and a few of the others, but especially Jasmine because she's incredible. And I noticed that she doesn't have sponsors, and I talked to her about it. And you don't have to abandon sponsorships to join the Green Runners, but it felt for me a bit more honest. And so still wear Salomon shoes, but I wanted to make a point about consumption and like being just thoughtful about how we do sport. So it's not about saying no to everything, but it's about making conscious choices. Like, I will travel to race, but not every weekend, and I would prefer to race something I can get to by train than something I have to fly to, definitely. And and those are like positive choices for me. It's not about saying, oh, I've got to miss out on fun stuff because I care about the environment. Like, no, it's about like thinking about it as a whole. And actually, I don't really like flying anyway, so it wasn't a big. It's really stressful to travel with a bicycle or even just fly. So yeah.
I think it's been nice to talk to Jasmine and yourself about that, because I think it puts the Green Runners into this kind of very relatable and like down to earth, very grounded kind of way that hopefully is inspiring people all over to just make small changes, right? It doesn't have to be perfection. It just small changes will add up to make a big difference. And I think that messaging is really important.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is like to put pressure onto brands. So in the end, like, brands and sponsorship survive because of consumer demand. So athletes are only ever sponsored if that sponsorship helps to sell more stuff, because it's got to be profitable for the brand. And and I think that consumers they do want stuff that is equipment that is that lasts, and that they want to be sustainable. And I think sometimes people just need to be to think about it a bit. And it's also good for your pocket. Like, who wants to have, if things last for 10 years instead of 1 year, then it saves you money. And I think it's about positive choices. And I think that like I say, I love wearing my 10-year-old Salomon t-shirt to be like, hey, look, this thing lasts, it's really good quality. And the same with the rucksacks. And it's like, it's not about never buying new equipment, because things wear out. Like, it's like bicycle brake blocks and chains, and again, eventually the tread runs out on your shoes. But I've worn other brands, I'm not going to name them, but let's just say it's a 2-letter brand of running shoe that I don't know, it fell apart. It fell apart. Yeah, it wasn't good quality. And I just think, for people who pay for these things, like, how do they feel when their shoe falls apart after 200K? It's crazy. So go Salomon. They make shoes that last, and they make good shoes. And I won all my good races from Salomon shoes.
And Emma, I didn't bring you on to talk about cycling or mountain running. It was actually your newest project. That was one of the big reasons I brought you on to the podcast. And when we are releasing this, hopefully this will be available for people very shortly after. But if not, we will add links in the show notes and things as it comes out. Since the timing of it all is a little bit uncertain, but maybe you can talk to us about kind of how that works. But you are publishing a sports memoir and cookbook. Yes. It's called Oat of this world. A play on words. I love that. And so can you tell us a little bit about, how the memoir is going to be also the cookbook and where the inspiration for this came from?
Okay, yeah, well, I mean, like a lot of people who do sport, I love food. I love food so much. I think it's because I'm often hungry, so food tastes really good when you're hungry. And yeah, but I always really wanted when I was training and racing, I always wanted to eat real food, especially in training. And so I started making my own, like a lot of people do these days. I made my own training food, and I made them out of oats, and I took them like to share on training rides, and people would say, "Oh, this is great. Where can I get the recipe?" And so I wrote the recipes down, and I made like variations on the theme, and they ended up, I think, as really fun and easy and just delicious, simple recipes made out of normal things. Like you don't have to buy any crazy ingredients. And so about 8 years ago, I said, "Oh, I'm going to write a cookbook. I'm going to write them all down, and I'm going to publish it." And then I don't know, I was just really busy. And I started a new job, and then I changed jobs, and anyway, I never quite got around to it. And I started properly 2 years ago writing the book. And yeah, so I've written up 43, there's 43 recipes. They're all based on oats, as you might guess from the name of the book. And then I also wrote a few stories about I wanted to write a few stories about food in sport, like memories of like, I think, like, for example, the pizza we had at the end of the Giro, the year that I didn't win it. But, anyway, I had these fun stories of things I ate on training rides, and I thought they were kind of interesting. And then the memoirs, the stories turned into, I don't know, maybe a bit deeper, some of them. But they're all about, I think they all come down to like the joy of sport and the joy of food and sport, and they're things that I wanted to like communicate to people. And some of them I've shown to people, or one of them I published already in an online magazine. And I was really pleased with the response. Like I think it speaks to some people, maybe not to everyone, but anyway, there's 17 chapters with quite different themes, but like we're all a bit about food. So and it is due out at the start of October. And so pre-ordering should be available from like the end of August. And I don't know, because I'm not a pro at this, I don't really know how it works, but I'm doing my best, and I've got some awesome people helping me. And so yeah, by the time the podcast comes out, I hope the pre-order link will be there. And it's going to be, I mean, I was saying I'm not into consumerism, but you should consume the book. This is the one thing you guys should all buy this year. But, they're really good recipes.
Books, I feel like books are surpassing consumerism. Those are
yeah.
Okay
Well, also there'll be an ebook version of it, obviously. Okay. But I think the physical book will have some beautiful. So the photography, I got a friend of a friend did the photography, and is like you could almost eat the pages. It's so like the pictures are so good.
So this is funny because that was actually one of my questions. If people follow you on Instagram, they can also find the Oat of This World Instagram account as well. And if you like scroll through these, I was like, holy smokes, these look amazing. Yeah. And so as you're telling the story of like, I used to bring things to training rides, I'm like, were they this beautiful looking when you would bring them to training rides and offer them to your training partners?
Well, the thing is, when something has been squashed in your pocket for an hour, it looks less good. But actually, so one of the things there's a few things about the recipes that are really like they make it a bit different as a recipe book. So one, they're all oat based, but yeah, that you can tell that from the name. And then two, they're all portable, so you can take them with you. It might not be the thing to eat in like a 5K on the track, but they're more for like long, but they're just as good for like breakfast in the office as they are on a hiking or a biking trip. Because they're all made out of like whole grain oats, and I think that's a really healthy start to the day. And so that's a really key difference. So yeah, I did take them on bike rides. They didn't always look quite as posed on the bike rides. But they're all quite different flavors, and I've got like salty recipes as well as sweet ones. So the way the book is divided, there are like salty, like savory things, because a lot of people crave not sweet stuff after a while in long events or on long bike rides. And then like naturally sweet, so things that have got like dried fruit or maybe real fruit in or fresh fruit in. And then things that are really sweet, they've got added sugar. And so I think that's a good way to divide it, because it helps you decide what you want to take on your yeah, it's adventure food, but I mean, I quite often eat these things for breakfast after riding to the office because yeah, I have a normal job now, and I want to eat healthy food that tastes good, and they're easy to make, so I can make a whole batch and they last the whole week. And yeah, so they're kind of joyful
Yeah,
food.
I was looking, and I think the coconut chocolate one is going to be one of the first ones that I will make, because that one, I'm a big fan of coconut and chocolate, like candy bars and stuff. I have a major sweet tooth. And so I was like, oh, that looks right up my alley. And I believe you have coined a new word for people to learn of puffin. Is that how you would say it? A porridge muffin?
Porridge muffin, yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds really English now I say it in my accent. Porridge muffin. Yeah. Apparently it is a word from like Tamagotchi. I don't know. Anyway, but it's not, I think crucially it's not trademarked, but if it is, I'll go back to calling them porridge muffins. But yeah, because I spent ages trying to work out the name of the book. Yeah, but in the end, anything with porridge just sounds a bit like, it sounds very stodgy.
It doesn't sound portable either. Yeah.
And then actually, this is I've got breaking news for you. This is a bit of a scoop, but the name is actually possibly not going to be Oat of This World. It might be Oat to Joy, which is also a pun.
Okay.
But I mean, I have so many puns.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a tricky one. Like all that stuff about how to like construct and market a book is a totally new thing for me, and it's been a really fun challenge. But it also feels like I'm going to be so happy when I can hold the thing and just it's done.
Is the next do you book like press and media release after it is released?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, so I hope to have like a launch in London and maybe one in Switzerland, because I still obviously have lots of contacts and like people in the UK, and the book's in English, not in German. And yeah, so I have a someone who's really good at marketing helping me with that, and because I'm not very good at it. But yeah, it's important.
Well, you are really good at a lot of other things, so that's okay.
I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm terrible at everything, but yeah, I really believe in the recipes. Like, they're really good, and they're not really, so some of them aren't really that sweet, but that's kind of deliberate, and you can always add more sugar. But the coconut chocolate one I think is cool. It's like a reverse Bounty bar. Do you have Bounty bars in the US? Like chocolate in the
we have
inside.
Mounds bars, which I did. Yeah, I looked it up, and I think we have Mounds bars, but I think it's the same as a Bounty bar.
Yeah, so it's like, but these are like chocolate in the middle, and then the coconut, like the oatmeal dough around the outside is got coconut in, and that's really good because if you take them in your pocket on a ride, then the chocolate doesn't make a mess because it's inside the dough. It's like a jam donut, but with no donut and no jam. But you know what I mean? Like the same principle, that the sticky thing is in the middle, and then it's protected by oats.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes them like easy to take with you on a ride.
Yes, so you can tuck it into your Solomon race vest very easily too. Exactly. When you're on a long run or you're doing something on the trails. Exactly.
Yeah. And then like it's a similar
I'm very excited for this.
Sorry, I think there's a time lag.
Go ahead.
I have like the carrot cake one as well. And like the frosting on a carrot cake is one of the best bits of the carrot cake. But there's a recipe where the frosting is in the middle, and then the carrot cake is around the outside in a muffin. So it's the same thing. Like you can take it with you, and you still have the frosting, but it's like hidden in the middle. I think it's a great innovation.
Yeah, that's a really genius idea. I'm actually like, how did cyclists not come up with this until you created this? This is
I'm
great.
I'm really proud of it. It's I'm an engineer, and I feel like this has been the greatest use of my engineering in my life. Putting the frosting in the middle of the muffin. Yeah, I'm joking.
Well, Emma, thank you. No, thank you so much for all of your time today. I really enjoyed getting to hear some of your stories, learning about your newest project with the memoir and cookbook. I can't wait till it comes out. We will definitely be sharing and putting links for people to be able to follow that, whatever stage it's in when this is released. We'll make sure people have access to that. But thank you so much for your time today. And yeah, good luck with this next phase of book publishing and the media around it. That'll be a new adventure.
It will. It's a challenge, that's for sure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and like letting me talk about my book, which yeah, it's been lovely to catch up. Thank you.
Thanks so much to Emma for coming on. You can head to www.emmapooley.net/oat-of-this-world to sign up for updates. So as the book comes out, as the ebook comes out, sign up there and you will find out how to purchase everything there, and you can support Emma with that.
Out of this world. I'm appreciating these puns. Way to go, Emma. I can't wait to read that book.
And Haley, we did some internet sleuthing here too in the meantime, and we figured out why the great ultra running legend Courtney Dauwalter was basically going through security next to you, and you guys are now best friends.
Yeah. Okay. She's a Swiftie. Alyssa, I'm a little bit, I should have texted you immediately so you could do this sleuthing. And then I would have again, cut the line and gone to jail, but it would have been worth it to tell Courtney we are both Swifties.
I bet she would have appreciated it, and I bet they would have, I mean, in the spirit of all these magical things that were happening, you wouldn't have gone to jail. It would have all been fine. But yes, she's a Swiftie. She is there. We have a mutual friend. And I was like, wait a second, our mutual friend was there at the concert. I just saw that reel. And then I watched the whole reel, and sure enough, Courtney was with her. So
she could have come on my run.
Oh, yeah.
My 7-mile run, Swiftie run. I should have invited her. I just didn't know.
Gosh,
next time.
The world unites.
Oh, wait, but there is no next time. No more Eras tour. Oh.
There is one more next time for us, though, Haley. Next week, we will be recording our last Iron Women podcast. It's so sad.
So sad, but it's okay. One more time, and there's other
Monday
things.
nights free. Yeah.
We'll just have Taylor Swift dance parties. Maybe Courtney would come to that. No, anyway. I'll just secretly record it for something else. But Alyssa, been great chatting with you. I'll talk to you one more time next week.
Bye, Haley.
You've been listening to the Iron Women podcast hosted by Haley Chura and Alyssa Godesky.
Iron Women is a production of Feisty Media and is edited by Lydia Russell and produced by Ella Natishan.
Head to livefeisty.com to find more podcasts, stories, and fresh perspectives.
Thanks for listening.